Con Harissadelides is a Clean Energy Council Co-Chief Policy and Impact Officer joining us this afternoon. Hi, Con.
Hi, Trevor. How are you?
Good. Are we starting to see a lot more people moving towards solar panels as well as batteries?
Yeah, look, solar on its own Australia's the world envy in terms of the amount of rooftop solar we've put onto our homes in the last decade. There's more rooftop solar capacity in Australia than there is currently coal-based generation. So, it's been an absolute winner for Australians. Have loved it. Solar and battery systems, we've actually seen in the last sort of 12 and 18 months, a lot more people started to take up both the solar battery option. So it's actually quite encouraging to see that take-up rate really kick along now.
So if you want to join us with any comments or questions to ask, you're more than welcome. I've got a text here, Con, that says, Trevor, solar and battery are a waste of time and money when the retailer is charging us to feed the grid with excess power. It costs us 84 cents to feed the grid yesterday. Not happy. Does that get solved if you put a battery in?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because solar's its own success has been we have this absolute huge amount of solar onto the system in the middle of the day when the sun's really shining, and obviously when you've got a lot of supply, price comes down. So what storage does is rather than push that excess solar back into the grid, you can store it and then you can use it for your evening peaks when everybody comes home and turns on the light and there's a huge demand on the peak of the system and prices are going up in the evening.
So is that case, one of the suggestions is that if you're going to put solar in and you want to make the best advantage of it, is to actually at the same time put a battery in?
Yeah, absolutely. We did a study earlier this year and we basically found if you put a solar and battery system into your system, on average, you're going to save up to about $900 per annum on your bill. So that's a significant saving. If you think the average household bill is around sort of $1,500 to $2,000, you're nearly saving half your bill with a solar and battery system.
But what if you don't put a battery in? Because what this person is saying is that they're complaining because it costs 84 cents to be able to do that you don't get the rebate or you don't get the money back that you used to.
Look, the feed-in tariff has definitely come down, as I said, because there's excess solar in the system in the middle of the day, and that's why it starts to make a lot of economic sense now to also then add a storage to it and store that excess solar that you have. It's important to remember, though, the main reason people are putting solar onto the roof is first and foremost for their own need. So that's where the big bill savings are coming from, because instead of consuming energy from the grid and paying all the costs of, the generation, the transport along the transmission network, the distribution costs that you're paying for, you're actually producing it in your home and the sun is free. The cost to generate it is very low, to pretty much zero. So you're avoiding a lot of costs, and that's where the real big savings coming from solar for people is it's reducing their own bills.
Actually, Bob called in, whose text I read. He just wanted to clarify something. Hi, Bob.
Oh, hi, Trevor.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have a battery. So what happens in our situation is that by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, our battery's at 100% capacity. The solar is still producing. We have no use for the excess power, and therefore it's being fed into the grid automatically. And that rate, I know 84 cents is insignificant, but sometimes that can be up to $2.50 to $3 a day. Because we just can't consume the battery and the solar. Our house just cannot use that much. So it is good at night, yes, I accept all that. But during the day, I just think they really need to rethink this policy. I don't see why we should be paying to export power into the grid for other people to then be charged for it.
Yeah, Con?
Yeah, look. I can't comment about the specific case, but the key with getting yourself a solar and battery system is to actually get a professional installer to come and size your home, look at your bill, look at which way your house is pointing in terms of the sun flows or the sun rays. And what will happen then is you'll get a system that they'll talk through with you and say, okay, what's your purpose? Is your purpose about reducing your bill? And they'll size that for that purpose. If your purpose then is to also then get some additional benefits through what we call orchestration, and that's where the excess solar and the excess stored energy goes back into the grid, then they'll again work through a pricing model for you and make sure that they maximise the benefits for you. So my advice is, when you are looking at these packages, is to get an expert in there and get 2 quotes as well to make sure it gets properly sized for your household needs as well as the environment that you're in.
So what you're saying is that there are different size batteries as well at different prices, I presume? Yes,
correct. Yeah.
What sort of prices are we looking at for a battery?
Look, you're probably starting at sort of the $12,000, $13,000, $15,000 range, and then if they get bigger, they become a bit more expensive. And this is why we're saying that we need a rebate to reduce those upfront costs, because it's quite a sizable investment for a household at that pricing point. But then the benefits that flow are quite significant as well. And the study that we did earlier this year said a solar battery package actually generates about $100 million worth of benefits to the whole grid, because we're moving our energy to the parts of the grid where there's capacity on the grid, and therefore we're not paying those higher rates for using the grid when there is high demand for it.
A lot of people that are listening be saying this is a really good example of how people that are wealthy or people that have got a fair bit of money that perhaps is residual value, in that they're rich enough to be able to afford this. For those people that aren't, they're going to continue paying high prices, and it's something that's good for the rich or the well-off and not necessarily good for the people who are in lower socioeconomic groups.
Yeah, look, I'd like to be a bit of a mythbuster, because if you actually look at the data of the type of households that have got solar, they're actually tending to be that middle income to lower income households. They are actually the ones who are more cost conscious of their not only their energy costs but other costs in the home. So there's been a very high uptake of solar by those sort of middle to low income households because they're more cost conscious and trying to save money. There's also other things that we've called for, which are quite important to, make sure that this is fair for everybody. And things like social and public housing, which state governments own, they should be doing the same things to those houses. And they should be installing solar and storage for those residents as well, and give them the benefits of the same as somebody that makes their own purchase.
Kate joins us. Hello, Kate.
Oh, hello.
What did you want to say, Kate?
Well, we're pensioners. I'm on a disability pension and my husband's self-funded. And we've just put on, get this, 30 solar panels. We already had 12. We're on a hobby farm in Gippsland, and we got a battery as well. And we're now paying less in repayment, so we're paying $290 a month in repayments, and we were paying $340 a month in power. And that's because we have freezers that hold our own meat, because we butcher our own meat and all those sorts of things. So we have a high load with the freezers and things. Otherwise, we're just a normal household.
So you can pay it off, Kate?
Yeah, we're paying it off, and we're paying less than what we were paying in electricity. And we're about to go join a wholesaler that's going to give us 15 cents a kilowatt instead of the 4 cents a kilowatt that we were getting previously.
Kate, thank you. You'd be pleased to hear that, Con.
Absolutely, and Kate's the perfect example where, she's obviously had somebody come out and look at her site and what they're doing on the property, and have sized a solar battery system that actually meets their needs. And now she talked about signing up with a retailer wholesaler, which is an additional value of being able to put energy back into the system and maximise the value from it. So that's a great case study.
So is it normal that you can pay them off?
Yeah, there's lots of different models out there. Some people like to pay up front. Some people like some loan to take out loans. So there's different models, and there's new market participants, new retailers with new business models coming to the market who are really offering some really good ways and innovative ways for people to be able to purchase a solar battery and not have to make a significant payment at the front end, but to smooth that payment over a period of time.
Hello, John.
Hello.
Yes, John.
The solar grid isn't designed to have power put back into it at the end of the line. Like a funnel, you can't put water in the bottom of the funnel. So all new housing estates should have a battery that the houses that are in the estate can charge into and then draw back off when it's required.
John, thank you, because that's one thing I was going to ask you, Con, is where we have estates where may have a centralised battery system. But not only that, as we're looking further at high-rises, whether or not we start to see units with solar panels on their roofs, but also a centralised battery system.
Yeah. Look, the National Construction Code's just going through its 2-yearly review, and one of the things they're looking at the moment is actually to require mandate solar on all new builds, commercial and residential. So that John's spot on in terms of, mandating that. They haven't got quite to the stage of storage, but that's the next phase, obviously, that if you can do it, it's much cheaper to put solar and storage into a new build. It's like any other product or service you put into a new build. It's cheaper to do it at the front end rather than try and retrofit it. So John's spot on. We definitely need those to be put on new builds.
And also, as far as not retrofitting, but with townhouses and with units, they get also included in that cost?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd implore all designers of apartment blocks to start to look at how to utilise the roof space of those apartment blocks, and it should provide a point of difference for them when they're starting to sell these properties and rent these properties out, that they can then market them on the premise that energy is quite cheap or even potentially free for them because they've got their own solar generation and storage on the premise.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Yes, what did you want to mention?
We had solar panels installed by our service provider. Can I mention the name?
Yeah. No.
No, that's fine. No, they're our service provider. They offered us a good deal. We put in 3 kilowatts worth of panels about more than 10 years ago without the battery, because batteries were really expensive then. And it worked well for us. It did reduce the cost of the electricity. And then they came back and said, would you like a battery? And it was a 10 kilowatt battery. We'd have to get additional panels. So they came in and installed. Our service provider did all that for us again. And we haven't paid virtually nothing for the last 2 or 3 years.
Paul, thank you. Another thing that I've got here as well, Con, is someone said, Trev, is it easy to go off-grid with a full solar system to avoid service charges? Because we hear about people going off-grid all the time, Con, but is it something that you can do in a suburb? Can you go off-grid quite comfortably in a suburb?
What you can do is become self-sufficient with your solar and battery system. Going off-grid does incur some additional costs because effectively you're cutting yourself from the network. I think it's a good idea to stay connected, because not only if you stay connected, not only are you then using your solar and battery for yourself, but if you've got excess solar or excess stored energy, you can actually then push that back into the system, and you actually make it additional money from it. And we had some callers before talk about, a retailer come along and give them 15 cents through accessing their energy and being able to put that back into the system. So my recommendation would be to stay on grid and look for those opportunities where you can actually get additional payments for sharing your excess stored or generated energy.
We're joined by Con Harisalides, who's the Clean Energy Council Co-Chief Policy and Impact Officer. Kim joins us. Hello, Kim.
Hi, Trevor. So our solar was producing way too much energy, as another caller said, and putting it back into the grid. And then we found out that our inverter had been shut down because we were producing way too much power going into the grid, and we weren't notified by our provider that was the case. And it wasn't until we went on a journey of investigation with a solar technician that we found out that the grid, the power, so the lines have never ever been upgraded to be able to cope with solar.
Just a kind of thought on that, Con?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really important thing, and I think that's where retailers and installers really need to have customer consent in terms of how that product's being used. We've got to remember the solar, as that lady just spoke about, is paid for and owned by that customer, and if other people who are operating the grid want to access it and dial it up or dial it down depending on what the grid needs, that customer needs to be informed about it and provide their consent. So, yeah, that's an important issue.
And kind of, is it another reason why you get somebody in to take a look at your property at your house and then establish what it is that's needed for that particular place?
Exactly. As I said before, making sure you get the right size for your household type, your lifestyle that you lead. If you're a shift worker, you might need energy at different times of the day, how many kids you have, how old those kids are. All those things are really important. Which way your house is facing in terms of where the sun comes up and down. So all those things are really important, and getting that professional advice and getting 1 or 2 quotes at the front end can make sure that you get the best system for your needs.
Terrific, Con. Thanks very much for joining us.
All right, thanks, Trevor. It was a pleasure.
Con Harisalides, who is the Clean Energy Council Chief Policy and Impact Officer. You're listening to Afternoons on 774 ABC Radio Melbourne and Victoria. We're off to the next ABC News.
Bye.